going on, everyone? It's LJ. And you know, as much fun as it is to make rock and metal updates and honky-tonkin' country updates, and I love those, fact of the matter is, like anyone else, I'll often pick up stuff that doesn't necessarily fall into either one of those buckets. And that is what this video is. Complete with some needle drops for you guys to check out some of that stuff. This is a vinyl update about a small handful of that stuff that just doesn't fall in to either one of those two categories. So here we go. Let's check out the whatnots, the stuff that just doesn't fit into the other updates. Let's start off with the Electronic Concept Orchestra's Moog Groove. This is from 1970. So before there was the wretched Satanism that is auto-tone, there was electronic music where it kind of first started, as far as I can tell or know, and that's with Moog Groove. And this is popular hits with a very pretty girl on a couch with big headphones on, jamming to favorites by Joni Mitchell, the Beatles, oh, what else do we have? The Fifth Dimension, all sorts of cool stuff. A really interesting and pretty cool album. Definitely dug the cover. Who wouldn't? Next up, 1968's Mass in F minor by the Electric Prunes. This is an original pressing on reprise, and this is just some real psychedelic stuff. Church Mass in Greek or Latin, I would guess. Apparently, or purportedly, as I was reading about it while I was listening to it, it wasn't even performed by the band, but released under their name. It's definitely got its own kind of weird little edge to it. I would file this somewhere under music for Monday's night's Masonic Templar Knights meeting. You check it out. Next up, Eddie Cochran's Great Hits. Right? Great Hits, not Greatest Hits. I absolutely love Eddie Cochran. Captivating, mesmerizing, rockabilly, rock and roll history as told by Brian Setzer, who Eddie Cochran indelibly left his mark on, like he did with so many other greats, from classic and legendary performers like Elvis Presley all the way up through modern day revivalists like J.D. McPherson and Wayne Hancock. Eddie and his Gibson were just a bomb. I said Brian Setzer because on the back there's a write-up that Brian did about every song on the album, what it meant to him, and so forth. I definitely don't come across Eddie Cochran vinyl very often, and although this is just a comp on Liberty, it turned up real cheap in near mint condition, and it is just a ton of fun to listen to.
Well, I gotta get hold of the record machine when it comes to rockin', she's a queen. We'll love to dance on Saturday night. Well, hold on where I can hold her tight, but she lives on the 20th floor of town. The elevators are broken down, so I walk 1, 2, 5, 3, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more. Along the 12 I'm suddenly dragged.
Speaking of Mr. Presley, up turned Elvis's first album from 1956, just called Elvis Presley. This is an album that I already had. I have an older original pressing that's not in the best shape, but I also have this legacy vinyl, 180 gram edition that came out not too long ago, maybe around 2008. So the reason I grabbed this one is because it was an edition I didn't have. So it would have been from around 2005, 2006, and it's the 50th anniversary edition. Again, it was in great shape, and I'll grab this album anytime it turns up for a fantastic price, because it is just amazing. And Scotty Moore's finger-picking guitar style just leaps off the grooves of this album. You cannot deny the power and sheer intensity of this album, and especially I can only imagine how it resonated at the time. Killer stuff. Next up, we have the Velvet Underground's third album, the self-titled Velvet Underground. I've never been a huge fan of this band. The first couple albums were just a little too experimental for me, maybe a little too psyche for me. I don't know. I always really dug Lou Reed and John Cale as solo artists, and I have a lot of their stuff. I believe John Cale's not with the band anymore at this point. And this album is a lot easier to listen to than the first two, because it's less experimental. You know, when they rock, when they pick up the tempo, I dig it. When they slow it down, it just loses me. Rolling on with a blind buy. This is 1970s The Second Coming. I had really no idea what to expect from this. I probably should have gotten some tips or some clues from the cover, and I guess I kind of did, and it's pretty much what I expected it would be. It's horn rock. You know, not unlike Chicago or Blood, Sweat, and Tears or Chase, and, you know, while I can't say it's a bad album, I can't say it's a good album either. You really just gotta be a fan of horn rock, and, well, I'm not. Now, what I am a fan of is Paul Butterfield Blues Band, and this is 1968's In My Own Dream. Paul Butterfield's blowing on the harp is just absolutely amazing stuff, and it's become exceedingly difficult to find their stuff in the wild in good shape. This is on the Gold Elektra label, and compared to the other two releases I have, the first album from 65 and East West from 66, In My Own Dream is a little more soulful and a little more horn driven. So I guess that makes it more horny? I don't know. It's still a really good album and definitely one worth checking out. Rolling on, 1968, classic soul R&B gold. I love this stuff. I absolutely love classic soul. The further it gets into the 70s, the more it loses me, but that 50s and 60s stuff is just amazing. And this is Lady Soul from Aretha Franklin. Aretha had some pipes. This had Natural Woman and Chain of Fools, which I guess were the big hits here. But my absolute favorite track off this album, and check out that cool old green and blue Atlantic label, has always been Nikki Hokey. Check out Nikki. Alright, so here's one I probably should have left behind. I already owned Shades of Deep Purple. What I did find out in the wild, for a pretty good price, was a UK copy of the same album. Different cover. And this seemed to me at the time to be like a pretty early copy of it. In really good shape, laminated cover, save for a couple of creases which you can't avoid. So doing some research, this is on the black and white, not sure how well you can see that, Parlophone label. And I know the first pressings have yellow lettering on it, this one has white. So it's probably closer to a second or a third or maybe even a fourth pressing. Still really early from when it came out. But I gotta be honest with you, as many times as I listen to this and try to get into it, to me, it still sounds like a bad Moody Blues album. Sorry. Here's an album I know absolutely nothing about. It's a Canadian private press, so maybe some of my Canadian friends have some more info on this. And this is Bruce Springsteen's Greetings from Asbury... What? It's not? You're right, it's not. It's the WAG. Greetings from West Park Row. But I mean, check out that cover. Could you get more blatant fan tribute to Bruce Springsteen than that? And so that's your first clue that it's more of a, not a comedy album in the typical sense, but kind of a parody album. Here's the insert. And so what it turned out to be was actually a pretty funny album. There's some really, really cool, not Weird Al-like parodies, but they may as well be. And it's on UCA Records. It was just a fun album to listen to. A lot of really well done parody and comedy songs. You know, enough from me. You check it out.
I met her in the pub back in '83. I was 18 then and was understandably nervous. Nervous. She walked up to me and she wanted to know if the G-Fi guys working back at the bar tried to serve us. S-E-R-V-E, serve us. Jervis.
And here's the last one I'll show you. I found this at the same time I found the WAG, and I had no idea what it was. And this is the Beelzebubs, the devils. Yeah, it must be. And what this turned out to be is from 1980, 1981, right around then. And it is the Tufts University a cappella band. Okay, that wasn't exciting, and it's not exciting, and I'll let you take a listen to it in a minute. And the only redeeming factor or quality I could find about this, as I did a little bit of research on it while I got to the end of side 1 and admittedly couldn't bring myself to listen to side 2, was that not this incarnation of the band, but later on, the same band from the same school, which just rolls on through the decades, did go on to provide the background music or a lot of backing tracks, vocals, I guess, for the TV show Glee. Now, I have to admit, I've never seen a single episode of Glee in my life, and while I may live out in the backwoods, I don't really live under a rock, so I do know about it, and if this, for some reason, is high on your wish list or grail list, send me a PM. Let's trade, because there's some girls out there I'm after as well.
And I want you to be my baby. And when I dream at night, I don't dream of Marie or Sherry. I only dream of Gloria, but she's not in love with me.
Now, I can't imagine why you would want that in your collection, but if you do, give me a shout. Until then, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have one, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.